Hi, it's Terry Gaines. I'm going to give you some assembly tips on this beautiful card created using product in Stampin' Up's 2021-2022 annual catalog. The bundle I used for this card is Artistically Inked, which is a stamp set and a die set, which are bundled together for 10% savings, or you can purchase them separately. I also am using a sample in the annual catalog as inspiration. The bundle is part of a suite on page 96 of the catalog, and a suite in Stampin' Up's catalog is 4 products that are bundled together to order with one code number. And as I mentioned, the bundle is in that suite along with designer series paper and an element package. In Stampin' Up's catalog, for every suite in the catalog, there are 5 card samples, which are beautiful, and you can duplicate those, or you can use them as inspiration for creating cards in different projects. I have made that easier for you by creating a card sketch of these 5 samples, and if it's home decor, a card, or a packaging idea, or a note card packaging, I've put all of them into the card sketch as a standard card base. And these will be perfect to duplicate the idea or to use the product you have at home in your favorite colors to make samples. So as I mentioned, I have 10 card sketches. And if you are working with an international card base size of 5 7/8 by 4 1/8, I have a conversion for you to what to add or subtract to the different layer dimensions to get the appropriate layer dimension for your card base size. There will be a comment in this video that will get you right to the blog post to download those 10 flyers. So back to the card. You are watching the video to get assembly tips for this card. And as I mentioned, this is the inspiration. This card sketch is super simple, really. It's a card base and a decorative ring and 3 decorative images. And those decorative images can be any size or shape. And I'm going to actually use the flower that's in that stamp set. So let me share some of the things that I've done to create this card. I actually added another layer to my card base. I'm using pumpkin pie for the card base, and then I've added a 4 by 5 1/4 basic white, and I stamped on that with one of the stamps in that stamp set in pumpkin pie ink. So what I did was I inked it up, stamped the edge, stamped it again, and then when I had white space over here, I did not re-ink it, and I just kind of filled that in a little bit just to get some added color on the edge there. And then what I did was I added texture to this with the painted texture folder, and that's a 3D folder that you would place the paper cardstock between the folder, run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and it comes out texturized like this. So that was a layer that I put on next. The gold ring that I have on here was created by the 2 largest layering circle dies that are just circle. This die set has a scalped circle too. I ran this through my die cutting machine to create a ring. So that was the next layer. And then the next layer is the gold element. This is a die that's in that stamp, the die set, the bundle. I ran that through the gold paper, and what I did was I actually cut this. I cut it. There's 8 leaves altogether. I put 4 together, and I put those are going to go down here, and I don't need this extra trim or stem here. You can take that off. And then what I did is I just brought those in a little bit, and I adhered my layer down with my favorite adhesive, the Stampin' Seal, and then I placed these down, just place those down with mini glue dots. So I'm going to bring that portion in because that's already done. So I just placed those down. I didn't worry about getting them all secure because there's more elements that are going to go on top of it, and those elements will be with dimensionals, so they will have more holding power to hold all of those down. So let's go get to the technique that I actually want to share with you here. This technique that I use to color in the flower is the same technique technique I use for the rest of these cards. So when I'm done assembling this card and giving you the tips, I will show you some other cards that were made with that same technique. So what I wanted to do was stamp this flower, and I'm going to just give you a little history on what I did. I wanted first, it was originally to match the designer series paper, and if I stamped it with pale papaya, it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't dark enough. So then I thought, well, what if I stamp it with pumpkin pie? Excuse me, would pumpkin pie give me the colors that I wanted? It was darker, but it didn't have the blend in, but I knew I wanted something with both those colors on it. So every time you do this technique, you do need to clean it. And I'm off on the side here cleaning it with a Stampin' Chamois. So what I decided to do is to do the Stampin' Rock and Roll technique that we've done in previous, or learned a long time ago. And I wasn't sure it was going to work, so what I did was a technique called rock and roll. You tap tap in the lightest color. The next color has to be in the same family, it has to be a darker color, and you roll around. Well, I'm just going to show that for a sample. That was not what I wanted. I did not want that. But I thought maybe I could work with that. And what I decided was to do a modified version of the rock and roll technique. So I cleaned off my stamp, always clean it off. Tap, tap, tap in the light color, roll around the dark color. If I stamp right now, I'm going to get a version like that. What I'm going to do is take the blender brush and just bring that color from the edge of the stamp all the way in. I tapped way too hard. I shouldn't be getting ink on my block like that. And then I'm just going to reactivate it, huffing on that, and then stamp that, and that's what I wanted. I wanted an in-between those two, but not a drastic in-between, and it just was perfect for what I wanted for this, for my stamping. And you could actually do this with other colors too, but this was the perfect combination to coordinate with the designer series paper that's part of that suite. So next what I did was I cut this out with the die, ran that through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and then I've got an element like this. Then I decided I still wanted some texture to it, so I took one of our spritzers. These come in 2 when you purchase them. I put rubbing alcohol in here. I put it in my hand and I spritzed it, and then I crumpled it. And then I opened it up, carefully open it up so you don't tear it, and then I let it dry. That was more what I wanted for my technique. So what I've done earlier, I did that already. I stamped the leaves just with one color ink and sprinkled those, or spritzed them with alcohol, crumpled them. And then for the center, that's pumpkin pie, and then there's a little dot stamp. I embossed gold on here. So now I have the elements to assemble these. So what I'm going to do is use dimensionals for the rest of the assembly. Let me grab those, they're off on the side here. Bring this card back in. And I hope I've been on the video the whole time. My videos are unedited. Almost every video I have contains bloopers. So hopefully you are able to follow along on this for this technique. So as I mentioned, I'm going to use dimensionals. The first thing I'm going to do is put the 2 leaves on, the set of leaves, and I actually just put them on and then secure them in place with dimensionals. I don't add any additional adhesive, and then I'm going to add one down in this direction. And everybody has their favorite adhesive. I love the dimensionals and the mini glue dots. They're very strong. Once I have those in place, then I add a couple more. So I'm just going to add a couple more here, and then I'm going to take the paper pick, or the paper piercer part of the Take Your Pick tool. I combined a few words there and didn't get the right. So it's a paper piercer on the Take Your Pick tool. Now I can just go right down here. Those dimensionals will help secure those elements below. And then this centerpiece I'm going to attach with the dimensional. I failed to mention, not all of these samples, but this one in particular, I did add a little glimmer to this with the Wink Stella. This is a brush tip on it that has a glimmer liquid in it, and you can, I'm not sure if it's showing up on the video, you can choose to add this. So I'm going to add a little bit of that. I didn't do that, as I mentioned, on all those samples, but I did. And then add this. I did also stamp a sentiment down here. I chose not to on this one because I could use this for an anniversary card, or all kinds of different options for a card. I also added the adhesive sequins that come in the element package, part of the suite, on this card here. And you could always add the different elements. The rhinestone or champagne rhinestones go very well with this color combination. So you can add some more if you would like. So as I mentioned, I have some other samples here. I'll kind of move all my things out of the way. And here's some other cards. This one does not have the Wink Stella. It has some gold layering underneath here and some added layers. So I was having lots of fun with this technique. And you can just stamp right on paper. You don't have to use the dies to cut those out. And here's another one, just a simple, using the tag dies. Here's another one. Just love those tag dies. And they work out great for your projects, and it is the tailored made tags. And here's another one, just directly onto the cardstock, no die cutting. And here's another one where the element is added and the champagne rhinestones. So I hope you enjoyed this video or this technique, and if you have any questions, just send me a comment or an email. And thanks for stopping by. I would love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel, then click the bell afterwards and you'll be notified when I upload videos. Take care and happy creating.